Hey, it's Kaylin, and I am here to film a book haul for you. I was just on vacation in Maine, and I was only there for 3 days, which really wasn't enough time for me, but it was enough time to buy 8 different books. So I will show those to you, and they are not in any real particular order. I got a bunch of different kinds, so without further ado, I will show them. The first book is one that I am almost done reading. It is called Check These Out. It is by Gina Sheridan, and she is a librarian for St. Louis, Missouri, a public library there, and she put together a list of 200 of her favorite books and books that meant something to her or that she felt important to read. And some of the different categories that she lists are for example, graphic memoirs, short stories, Southern horror, and also, let me think, what was the other one? Books that were too strange to be true. So a few interesting different categories there. She has a lot of great, interesting recommendations and books that I probably wouldn't otherwise pick up, and many that I have actually read also myself. So it was interesting to see what she liked and what she recommended, and I'll be adding a lot of these books to my TBR. So the next book I have is Dolores Claiborne, and this is by Stephen King, of course. This is about the title character, Dolores Claiborne. She works as a housekeeper for an old woman who is actually one of the wealthier people in town, and she dies under mysterious circumstances, and Dolores, at the beginning of the novel, is being questioned by police about it because she is under suspicion of having something to do with it, because she was suspected of being responsible for her husband's death years ago. So she is being interviewed, like I said, by police, and she is going to tell her story. And there's an interesting quote on the back that kind of speaks for Dolores Claiborne, and it says, "Everything I did for love." And so we're going to find out what her role is in all of this and her relationship between the old woman she worked for. And I have actually seen the film Dolores Claiborne a few years ago, and I thought it was excellent. And I've forgotten a little bit of the plot, so I wanted to read the book. It is set in Maine, so obviously having just come back from Maine, I am interested in that. And it should be a good thriller / horror novel. And unlike some of Stephen King's other novels, this doesn't really involve any supernatural elements, just more realistic type of fiction thriller, which I like. Not to say I haven't read any of his other books, which are very interesting, but I just kind of felt like something more of a piece of real life, and this kind of fits the bill for that. And that is Dolores Claiborne by Stephen King. The next book I have is a graphic novel, and it is called Quiet Girl in a Noisy World, and this is by Debbie Tung. And I am not sure if this is a graphic memoir or a fictional graphic novel, but it is about a young girl who is basically an introvert and trying to make her way in a noisy kind of world, and a world where people are more outgoing and probably interact more with each other through social media. And she is just kind of someone who feels like she doesn't really fit in. And so I thought this was interesting. I don't know a whole lot about it. I don't know anyone who's ever talked about this book, but I looked at some of the pictures. They're just in black and white grayscale. Looks like ink. And I thought this would be good. It's fairly short, and I think I can kind of relate to some of this because I would consider myself an introvert and someone who doesn't really gain a lot of energy or stimulation around other people, but more so by myself and in the books that I read or the time that I spent alone. And so I can probably relate to this character. And so this is Quiet Girl in a Noisy World, an Introvert Story by Debbie Tung. The next book I have is very much related to Maine, and it is called Maine Coast, and it's just basically a collection of pictures from the Maine coast, obviously, and I am guessing it will have Portland, Maine, and Kennebunkport and Old Orchard Beach and other areas on the coast of Maine, and it has some great images in it. And having just come from there, I saw some beautiful sights, and I saw a lighthouse and the ocean and a lot of beautiful New England style houses, and Maine was pretty much the way I pictured it would be and more, and so I will really enjoy looking through this. So that is Maine Coast, and it's by Nance Trueworthy. The next book is also Maine related, and it is Burt Dow, Deep Water Man by Robert McCloskey. And I've spoken about Robert McCloskey before. He wrote Make Way for Ducklings and also One Morning in Maine and Blueberries for Sale. And this is about a fisherman, and it is in color. And his other books are notably black and white drawings. And so I don't know anything about the plot of this story, but I love the images, and I thought it would be a really good representation of Maine as well. So this is Burt Dow, Deep Water Man by Robert McCloskey. Next book I have is a book that is talked about a lot on YouTube, and I've been meaning to read it for quite a while because it looks creepy and interesting and somewhat dark. And so that is We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. I have read The Lottery, which is a short story by Shirley Jackson, but I really don't have any other exposure to this author. This is about, I think, a family who is rather rich, if I'm not mistaken, and they live together in a castle. And I think there might involve some kind of murder or mystery, but I don't really know a whole lot about it, but I don't really want to know a whole lot about it because it looks like something I can just jump right into, and it might be a page turner for me with the creepiness and the mystery element. I was really drawn in by this cover, which is creepy, and the back cover as well. Looks like there's going to be some kind of protest or riot maybe involving the women who live in this house. So I really, again, I don't know very much about it, but it's been talked about a lot and I've heard great things about it. So this is We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. I have two more books to show you, and these two are both basically true crime kind of biography or autobiographies. So the first one I have is The Fact of a Body. This is by Alexandria Marzano-Lesnevich. And this is about a woman who is working as, I think, a lawyer. And she has always been anti-death penalty, but she becomes aware of a case of a murderer, and she sees a picture of him, and she immediately thinks that she wants this person dead. And she goes looking deeper into the case and realizes there's something very familiar about it. And she has to peek into her own past to make the connection between this person and what lies in her past. So I thought this was really intriguing, and I picked it up, and I want to get to it as soon as possible because I love true crime, and I think that it will be very exciting. And so that is The Fact of a Body, and it is by Alexandria Marzano-Lesnevich. And the very last book I have is Mindhunter by John Douglas and Mark Olshaker. And this is a book that's been out for quite a while, but people will probably recognize it more so because of the Netflix series that is on currently. And there is one season on it. I have watched it. It is a good show. I've always kind of been interested in learning more about John Douglas, as he is basically the prototype for a profiler, criminal profiler. He interviewed a lot of famous serial killers such as Ted Bundy and Charles Manson, and he helped, I think, to develop profiling that the FBI uses. And so this is going to be very interesting. He's going to talk about a lot of dark stuff. And it also says that he was involved in the Green River Killer case, which almost cost him his life. So I'm curious to know what he means by that and how much of a toll that case had on him. So that is Mindhunter by John Douglas. And actually the character of Jack Crawford in The Silence of the Lambs, if you've seen that movie, was based on John Douglas. So he has a few different books out, and I saw this and I thought, well, I had just watched Mindhunter, so this would be an interesting book to try out. And that is all I have. Those are 8 books that I picked up on my vacation to Maine. And if you have read any of these books and you'd like to comment on them, please feel free. And if you are interested in reading any of these books, feel free to comment about those as well. I hope you have a great day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.